don't know if you started recording as well. Have we started the session?
No, I was just giving a recap before you will join. So, yeah.
So, all right. So maybe you can go to the slide one, you can start recording, and then I'll give a few updates to everyone.
Yeah, so I started the recording, and then Karthik, will you want to take it forward for the next 5 minutes?
Yeah, just a few minutes from my side. Hello everyone, welcome. Hope you're all doing good. Can you all hear me fine? Assuming so. All right, so team, let me make myself the presenter for the next couple of minutes. So make presenter. All right, can you all see my screen? Just a simple notepad. And this is the same content that each of you would have muted over the email as well, right? Can you all see my screen? Guys, waiting for your answer, if you can see my screen or not. Okay, great. Now I got it. Thank you so much. All right. So what I was about to say, team, is that this is the quick updates that we sent to everyone. So let me quickly go through them and tell you what they are. So the demo sessions and the videos are here for the day 1, day 2. Day 3 onwards, we'll put it on a different link, but please be patient for the next 24-48 hours for us to create a page specifically on this and put the videos there so that you can start accessing. All right. Second, yeah, actually that's the second point. So videos is what I just said. Go to webinar link we've shared, and that's why you're here today. So if any one of you missed out joining and you're seeing this recording later, that means that you have not seen the email or registered yet for the session. That's why you are unable to. We will also put everything that we do, both Mahesh and me, Manoj, all the trainers, we will put it into a Google Drive and share the Google Drive folder with you where you can start downloading. But do note, we will not share the files on a daily basis because it's going to be too tedious for us. So what we're going to do is we'll be sharing it more as we complete a project or a specific section within that and so on. All right, here is the schedule at a high level, team, for all of you. Right now, this is the schedule. So 28th, 29th is done, and today we are on the 1st. For QA, there can be a manual testing, there can be a slight change. It could be that we do 2nd, 5th to 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Because I and Mahesh spoke before this call, and we realized that maybe we'll require a little bit more time, but we will do 1 hour session, team, instead of the 1.5 hour. So instead of starting at 5 p.m. Pacific time, we'll start at 5:30 p.m. Pacific and go to 6:30. So we will have to extend it by a few more sessions. So like I said, even in this, that there's always a possibility for us to add more sessions. The intent is to make sure we cover everything in the right fashion. The other note, team, is NEOT is a webinar that I'm trying to do to introduce what NEOT is all about and how it's going to affect. It'll be on the same earlier webinar link, and you will get follow-up communications on that to attend. That's a free webinar for all. All right. Now, specifically for JPACT members who are here, anyone in this training who's not a JPACT member, can you just say me, please, in the chat? There are 20 plus out here right now who attended. So anyone who's not a JPACT member, can you just say hello, hi, whatever? The reason I'm saying is for JPACT, always remember there are 2 batches that we're doing, team. Batch A and Batch B. All right. Now, Batch A will be basically starting from the basics, like, level 0. Let me write it like this, and building on it. Okay, and this will take us about 3 months total, team, to complete. Hopefully within 2 months you will be ready. Sorry about that. You will be ready to start attending interviews. Okay. Now with batch B, which is the next one, the same thing out here, Selenium Basics training, what we started with, that is a little bit more advanced. So I can say this is more like level 2. Okay. And this will take about 1.5 to 2 months team. And you will be job ready in about, I wouldn't say 1 month, but 1.5 month. You will be job ready. You'll be ready to start attending interviews. What that means is basically we have equipped you, we have groomed you and trained you significantly where we are confident that you can start attending. Okay. The live projects also scheduled along with the live trainings. All right. So that live projects are very critical for each of you to attend, please. So if you go to a JPACT schedule, you can see there's live sessions and live projects along with it. Okay, so manual testing, test management tools, agile database testing, then a live project. Web services live training, mobile app, MAT means mobile app testing live project, UFT, Selenium Basic, and so on. Batch B is starting with these, and once batch B completes, we will again start another batch A. And each of the JPACT members have the option to be able to attend as many sessions as they would like instead of just one. But the intent is learn, practice, and prepare team. Preparation, practice is preparation, but the prepare I'm saying is more from a job perspective to get into the job market. Believe it or not, the job market is, how many of you people think it is simple or complex? Do you think the job market is simple or complex? It could be competition, skill set wise, even the basic steps of resumes, project work, and so on. How many of you believe it is simple or complex? Come on guys, I'm asking questions, you have to answer. I and other trainers are going to be very critical on these things. Your involvement on this training is very critical, team. Okay, apart from the huge investment that you did monetarily, it's your time, effort, dreams, and vision that you're building. All right. So except for 1 or 2 people who believed it's simple, and I'll request them to let me know why it is simple, I would think it is complex from your perspective. For me, it is absolutely simple. You know why I'll tell you job market, job hunt, getting into a job is simple? Because I break it down into steps. What we do typically is, did we get the job or not, right? So we say job, got, yes or no. I am saying it has got 10 steps and each step has a yes or no into it. That is what we should focus. Once you start putting down the simple steps like a checklist to get there, that is when we know we are ready or not, team. Okay? If you just said job, got, yes or no, then we are in a different field altogether. In this program, we will build you step by step. Not only skill, not only your resume, not just your communication skills and so on. There's a lot of things we're going to put, but I want you all to be active and very, very focused. All right. Other thing is, we are preparing an initial database of potential job seekers. So what that means is, Amulya from my team will be calling each of you and getting an overall perspective. So when we say overall perspective, questions like where do you live, what kind of a visa you have, what kind of a jobs you're seeking, and what's your work experience so far, what kind of a skill set you already have, those kind of answers. So once we're able to figure that out, mapping, oops, I got so scared for a second that I lost the whole screen. Mapping you to the right job Manoj, Karthik and Amulya are going to be working on. Okay. Next thing, location based job. So we've heard this from a lot of you team that can we, hey, I can't relocate. Can I get a job at this specific location and so on. So the point is we will push hard and try for that. Do we have clients in a specific location? No, we don't. But then we will have clients spread across US. At the same time, we will start building clients, okay, across the US, where we can hopefully, as time goes by, we should be able to say that, yes, I think most premium locations, we have a good clientele base. All right. So please focus on this training more from a job perspective. When I say job, not getting job team. It is getting into the job. I'm talking the next thing. Once you're placed, once you're committed to a company, how you deliver. That is where we will feel proud. All right, everyone? So this is the quick idea or overview that I wanted to give each of you before we get started with the program. So any questions before Mahesh takes on with the remaining portions of it? Team? Okay, so Pavan from India. Yes, Pavan. Go ahead, guys. Start typing quickly, please. So the one who answered saying that it's simple, the reply I got from her is that with right communication and knowledge. I think that's important, team. Those are some of the two key concepts, communication and knowledge onto it, right? Now, I've got one question and I'm not happy with that question, team. When the live project starts, the one thing I will not do at all, and I'll recommend strongly no one in this group should do, is spoon feeding. We will not give you information. We want you to struggle, all right? We really want you to feel very uncomfortable. This is not like sit back and watch a movie, team. You have to be sitting upright, straight, and focused onto a training. That is our intent, because that is what the corporate world is looking for today. So please make sure when you ask questions, you already have an answer. Do not ask the question, or rather ask the question, give the answer, and ask us if it is correct or not. Okay? If you ask me for live project dates and so on, come on, go to the web page and look at it, right? Look at this. Everything is here. If you don't read our communication, our emails and what we're passing, we will lag. Very honestly, team, I will tell you that ITLN website today is not very user friendly yet. It is not. It is not easy to navigate. I know it's a struggle, but it's sometimes, you know, it's disheartening for me that why can't I improve? And we're trying very hard to get a very simpler version, but at the same time, it is very critical and important for each of us to realize that we need to be standing on our own and find out the information, get what we want. All right? This is what is very critical, team. Do not think training is a comfortable thing. It is almost like deciding between should I go to a comfortable workout exercise for my fitness or something that's going to be pushing me. The trainer is going to be pushing us constantly. We are going to push your team. All right? Now, the reason I'm not taking specific names about who is saying is it does not matter. The message is for everyone of us, team. We have to really feel uncomfortable. Do I make myself clear about it? I want you to explore. I want you to really go forward. All right, everyone. Okay, so again, don't get it wrong. I have no bad intent or a bad reason for why I'm wetting out my emotion there. It is just that my duty is to groom. My duty, and so is Mahesh, Manoj, all our trainers will come your way to make you fit. and you have to be extremely strong on this team. Please remember that and please focus on that very, very well. We are trying to make you very, very strong and well prepared for the job market. Sounds good? All right, Pawan, your question, if you feel that resource is capable and worthwhile, will you be able to initiate H1B and they are ready to pay amount? No, Pawan. I am not doing any visa sponsorships or those programs at all right now. I may have a few partners who may want to do it, that or companies, and I'll consult with it, but as IT Learn or Workasa Inc., we will not be doing it. So please remember that. Sorry about the answer, but that's what it is. Okay, couple of more questions before Mahesh, I give it to you, please. Sorry, I'm taking your time there. But Pawan, again, we'll work with each of you. We'll figure out what has to be done for us. As a beginner, another question, team. Would it be too much to take up all the testing tools like UTP, Selenium, mobile app testing, or do all of them follow the same concept? Amazing question. I love this question. Thank you so much, Asha. Appreciate it. So there's so many trainings here, right? Manual testing, test management tools, agile testing, web services, this. Here is my concept, okay? Master one, all right? Be strongly aware of others. You understand what I'm saying, team? I am not expecting you to master everything, all right? But you should be aware of what is what. Because when we get selected for a testing job, you may have applied for a Selenium automation testing job, or a backend tester, database tester, or a web services tester. Once you get in, we have to be very nimble and we have to keep changing in terms of what we really work on. So that means that you cannot really say that I can only do this. So I am saying out of this list of tools, technologies, and concepts that we're introducing to you, you will master one or two, team. And the others, you should get a good idea about it. So what does it mean? Master basically means training and practice extensively. This also includes project works, okay? Being aware is get trained but little practice or none. I don't care, team. The reason is very simple. We want to get you into the job. Why I'm saying this is not because we don't want to teach you everything. Because we want you to get into the job, and the job and your career will decide what you have to learn. On the job learning, your career based learning, that is going to be critical. Fair enough? Did I answer this question? Now, in case a follow-up question comes and says, Master 1, which is the one? Not yet. I will let you know. But giving a hint, as we develop, we'll get towards it towards the later stage. Okay. Second thing is, question that may come with it is, are we going to focus more on those Master 1 trainings, or we'll focus on everything? From a training perspective, we'll go deep and we'll do the justice on every portion of it. All right. But then when we say focus, it is for you to start focusing more on those specific topics. All right. Makes sense, everyone? Are we all well geared, well set up? I know some of you can spend only 2 hours a day. Okay. Others can spend even 6 hours a day. So based on your goals and your situation and what you need to do, push yourself accordingly, please. All right. Do we make sense, everyone? All right, great. One more question. What kind of language use HP Selenium tool? Why do you ask a question that it is not yet in the subject? Okay. If you're part of the So the question was, what kind of a language used HP and Selenium tool? Don't worry right now, team. A lot of times in the training we'll tell you the question is not yet, we are not ready for the question yet. It's not important for us. All right. The other thing that I want to say, team, every question that you ask, every communication that you make, ensure your English, and I'm saying English, is perfect. Make an effort towards it. Because even if I see one simple spell error, I will be very critical, and so will I strongly recommend for all my trainers. And in fact, as trainers, Mahesh, Manoj, all the team members have to be conscious of this and make sure there are no spell errors while they're doing things. Now, this document that I prepared has no word edit, right? It's got no word correction, grammar correction, and so on, spell correction. But then wherever I see, for example, I wrote Amulya is A. Then I realized as I went along that how could the first name be lowercase, and I changed it. This is the consciousness of a human being that needs to be present. It is our own consciousness. That's it. How much are we present? Okay? Do not distract yourself with anything else while you're doing this. Focus on it. You have to get changing your gaits very quickly. Make sure your English is perfect. And to help, we will also be doing the communications training. Okay, soft skills training, even that is coming up. But then it is your consciousness which will help you take the best out of these things. Fair enough? All right, I'm done. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So team, let's continue with the training now. Mahesh, sorry I took almost 25 minutes out of your schedule, but please go on from now.
Unmuted.
No worries, Karthik. Yeah. So I'm pretty much sure most of the course content and the course the path has been discussed by Karthik. And any other questions apart from these, I would be happy to answer, and then we'll start with our training. I know Karthik has been a bit critical. Don't worry, it's for the benefit of us. Okay, so please post your questions for the next 5 minutes, and then we'll continue our training. All right. See, I see a couple of questions on the languages used for HP or Selenium tools, so on and so forth. See, the intent of this training is, again, as reiterated by Karthik, is to make sure you all understand what goes into the testing. What are the areas that are being tested? Be it an automation, be it manual. In manual, what all we are be doing, okay? And what is the database testing, what is an ETL testing, what are the automation tools we got, what is the functional automation testing, what is the performance testing. So this training will give you a complete picture about the testing market. Now from that, it's up to you to choose whichever you would like based on your strengths, based on your understanding and the guidance which we provide. Okay, so that's the intention of this training. I know for a beginner it's too much, but then again the intent, the content will help you to take a decision on what should be your path in testing. Alright? Okay. So good to go? A strong yes will make you to start. Yes. Okay, right. Alright. So let's start. So today's discussion will be more on test scenarios preparation and how do we go with test case preparation. So just before this session, Karthik gave me some idea. So I would like to depict the same in this session as well. So say suppose if at all you are going to buy a mobile, okay, what will you do? You will have some specifications in your mind, and you will be what do you say? You will be trying to find out whether the same specifications are available in the mobile, and so on and so forth. So what are we doing there? You are doing a random check, right? The same it goes with testing as well. So whenever you get an application, you start testing it. Okay. Now then you realize that, hey, might have left apart few of the testing scenarios. Okay. So you're not confident enough that you have done complete testing, right? So and then for that, what are the inputs? How do you do it? So on forth. These all things you might be having a bit of confusion. There is obvious feeling that you are missing few areas of the application to test, right? The same happens for us in the real time also, right? So in order to resolve this, a step-by-step approach is always good, right? And that's where you will start preparing the scenarios. Scenarios are nothing but, hey, if I do this way, how does the system react? If I do this way, how does the system respond? Okay, so you'll have to prepare scenarios, right? Now when I define the action, how do you do it is by you giving the input, right? And that input is nothing but your test data. Okay, now it's
Mahesh,
a
can you
high
hear
level
me?
discussion. Then again, can you please increase the font? Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I wanted to say the same thing. I hope you can hear me, right, Mahesh?
Yeah, I think I'm able to hear you.
Oh, great. I want to say the same thing. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So now, if you take any requirement, how do you start with your scenarios preparation? What is the best way of preparing the scenarios? Okay. So now, let me do a simple example. Then we'll do it for the actual requirement. Okay. Say I have a mobile, or I want to buy a mobile. Everyone will be okay. So you have your own specifications. Say I want a 4 GB RAM and 128 GB ROM with touchscreen, so on and so forth. 16 megapixel front cam, back cam, and an Android phone, latest Android. Okay. Now, when I say this, and then when you walk into a shop or a store, what will you do? You will ask the sales representative whether I have these specifications. Now, when the sales rep provide you a list of phones, you will cross verify everything. So how will you start? What will be your approach here? You will directly open the settings and see whether all these are there, right? Or instead, will you open the memory setting, or will you go to the what do you say, the camera, and see whether it is having 16 megapixel or not, right? So your approach from one person to the other person might be different. Okay, one may do it in a step-by-step way, or the other will have their priorities of first seeing the camera, then seeing the ROM, and then RAM, right? But for a software under development, okay, there will be modules, multiple modules. Okay. Now, as we discussed yesterday, you might be working in a new project, or there's a maintenance project or an existing project that is being already ran, right? In that case, when you are a newcomer into the project, you might not have a complete picture of what is the entire product is all about. Okay. So first and foremost thing you need to understand is the flow, right? So unless and until you are not familiar with flow, you will not be able to write your test scenarios. And how do you go forward, right? So for that, again I am reiterating, understand the flow, understand the domain under which the domain where this application is being developed. Okay. Now, once you are aware of all these things, then start with your test scenarios preparation. Now let's do the same for any order. So I hope this particular requirement you all know about any order. Okay. Now let's take a simple user module in it. This is one of the module in the application. So I have a user module where a person or a user who is new to the to this application can do the registration using these basic information. So this is the requirement you got. Now how do you start analyzing it? You will say who all will be the users, and then how to log in or how to use this, and then where to use it. Now when you say who are all the users, it can be anyone. So when you do start analyzing this requirement, right, you will have to use anyone can, who all will be using this, right? And then how do you use it? So what are the browsers where this application can be used? Okay, so on and so forth. So you will have to analyze how this particular module has to be used. Okay, and how do you navigate to it? Okay, how do you navigate? Okay. So when you have all these answers to your questions, then you can prepare your test scenarios. Okay. So now I have these columns: username, first name, last name, and email, company, country, phone, user title, so on and so forth. Right. Now I don't have any web application in front. I only have my wireframes or the mockup screens. Right. Now these are all your text boxes, and this country and role is a drop down box. So basic terminology of any web application you should have an idea, and I'm assuming many of us know about it. Okay, so when you see the wireframe and you see the requirement, you should try to analyze what is the gap there, what is that you are not still understanding, or do you think there's an extra information that is required, right? So start posing all those questions. So what is the gap? What is the use of the sections or the um, uh, requirement mentioned? Okay. Now once you understand the gap, right, then it will be easy for you to prepare or you to find out the solution for it. Now when I said username, first name, last name, what is the first and foremost thing that comes into picture? It should be whether it's in a plain English or what is the maximum length, what are the characteristics it will be allowing, okay, what is the minimum length, what is the mandatory column there, okay. If I am giving country, whether I have to give prefix to the phone number or not, okay, what are the user titles that will be there, so is it defined already or it can be entered by anyone, right? So you should finalize or you should ask all these questions to the client well before we start. It can be any question. See, again I'm telling you, any question is not vague at all. It has a purpose for you at least. Okay, and for a client, if the question is still vague, it is showcasing that we are able to understand what the requirement is all about. Okay, at least they will help us in understanding it. Okay, so no question is vague. All right, one second. Yeah. So what are the questions that you will be posting here? So first and foremost thing is username. What is the maximum length that you will be allowed? Okay. What is the minimum length? Whether it will accept special characteristics or not. Okay. And then when you say email ID, email address, is there any specification as such? Okay. And when I say phone number, is it coming with country prefix or not? Okay. And then if I say user titles, are these predefined or whether they can be generic, right? Because all companies may not follow the same titles, right? So you'll have to, yeah, so you'll have to post them. Okay. Yes, so there's a question from Ruxana. As testers, we ask these questions. Yes, right. We should ask these questions. Okay. Right. So once these questions are asked and you got a clarification, now it is easy for us to prepare scenarios, right? So let's see on the username itself. So I have username and client came back and said it should be of minimum length is of 4 is the minimum length and 16 is the max length. Okay, and it should allow it should allow to enter special characters, right? So this is what the client gave, right? Now when you see the the requirement, there was nothing mentioned in detail. Now when you pose these questions, this is what it is happening, right? So now when this is clarified, now you can write your scenarios, right? So how will you write your scenarios? What it will be like? It would be both positive or happy path and negative scenarios, which means if you take the mobile itself, you will see whether it's a 4 GB RAM or not. If it is less than 4 GB RAM, you will not consider that phone itself, right? The same approach you will take in the application testing also. So you will say, hey, whether it is taking less than 4 characters. If it is taking less than 4 characters, what is the error message? Whenever user types less than 4 characters, what is the error message that is popped up? Okay. Now, this particular information is not at all asked, or this particular information, the error message information is not present in the registration or in the requirement, and we forgot to ask even in the during the requirement analysis phase, right? So when you are actually writing your test scenarios, you are coming to this conclusion that, hey, what should be the error message that should be shown, right? So it's better to go back and find out rather than you actually testing it. So while you test, if you pose these questions, it's already too late, right? So in testing, nothing is too late. As and when you find this issue, if you directly pose this or if you directly ask these questions, it can be resolved then and there. So we should not have any inhibition that, hey, I forgot to ask this question way in the early stage of the testing and I asked this while I am executing. So there's nothing like that. Okay. So we will have to pose these questions as and when we have to get it. We will get it. Okay. Now then the another scenario for me will be if I am giving more than 12 characters. or 16 characters as I said. How is the system reacting? Whether it's giving the same error message or not. So for in both these scenarios, it might be the same error message or it might be a different error message, right? So what is it happening? You are trying to see how a system is reacting whenever you are giving two different kind of inputs, right? So for same requirement, you are seeing how many different inputs. There are multiple inputs. One is 4, one is 16, one can be 10, right? So there are three different scenarios here, right? So that's called as that the input that you are giving, it is called as test data. Okay. Now all these are important well before you do the execution. The reason being, while doing execution, there are a couple of scenarios. One, you may not be executing. It might be another resource. It might be another resource, right? Or in general scenarios, you might be doing the requirement analysis of entire requirement, but while testing you may be doing one or more modules, right? So the information that is cascaded to you will be helpful only for you. That might not be, you might not have enough time to give a KT or knowledge session to the other team members, right? So that's the reason preparing test cases or scenarios and documenting them is most important. Okay. Second, the test data preparation and its documentation is again needed, important. Okay. So that's the reason well before you start your testing, actual testing execution, you will have to do a correct requirement analysis, then your test case scenarios or test case preparation and the test data preparation. Now if you see, there's a lot of effort in these activities, right? If you start analyzing, these activities are not like a magic. It will not happen like a magic. So there's a lot of effort that's going into it, right? So all these have to be quantified, right? So when you have to quantify, how will you do it? You will have to do it in the man hours, man effort hours. Okay. So typically when you start preparing or when you start analyzing or preparing test case or test data, you will know that, hey, this particular requirement might take this much of effort for requirement analysis, test case preparation and test data preparation. So that's is mentioned in your test plan. Okay. So you will have to tell that I would require this much of effort, okay, and I'll have to do it in this stipulated time. So that's where test plan preparation is also important. There's a question here, is test data same as test steps? No, test step is the action you are doing, whereas test data is the input to that action. Okay. Test case has test steps. It's your action. Okay, step by step action, whereas test data is the input for these actions. Okay. Now, so if you see, going back to the test plan, so now you know how many hours, how much is the effort, who will be the right resource to test this application. Now, based on the effort that you have given, right, client may accept for those times or not, right? He may or he may not accept. So if he says no, then you will have to add extra resources. Okay, adding extra resources to get this task as accomplished, right? So you are telling that in the test plan, see, because of these timelines and the client's release specifications, I would need extra resources to get this task accomplished. Okay, so well before you start your execution, you will have to, we will have to finalize these areas. Okay, any questions so far? Okay. Okay, so there's a question here. So when do we do the test planning? Okay, all right. See, think of a big picture. I have a requirement from the client. Now, before you analyze it, you cannot come to a conclusion what is the effort is required, right? That's the basic. So unless requirement is analyzed, we cannot come up with a plan to execute the testing, right? So test plan comes after your requirement analysis. Requirement analysis, then is your test plan. Okay. So now people might ask, without I knowing what is the test scenarios that I will be using for test case for testing, how will I come to a conclusion what is the effort? It is the experience that tells when how much is the effort. So generally in the industry, right, only the senior resources or senior testers will be doing the test plan, because for a fresher like many of you will not know how much is the effort required. Okay, it's just the senior resources who might have already worked on these applications, in these kind of applications, they will be able to prepare a test plan. But as part of this training, will guide you in preparing a good test plan. And how do you do the estimates, all this will be covered as part of this training. Okay, now once the test plan is prepared, then we will start with test scenarios. Now you should understand this test scenarios preparation will be in line with the test plan that is being deferred. So you will have a requirement which will be having multiple modules, right? So you have to define which module will be tested by which resource. Okay, so that definition, once it is done, only those resources will be working on test scenarios. All right. uh, is the test plan developed well before coding or after the development? Okay, if you go back to the testing or the software development life cycle or testing life cycle, you will have waterfall. You have waterfall or V model, right? Where things go hand in hand. Development and testing activities go hand in hand, or testing and development activities are done parallelly. So irrespective of the code development, any tester or any testing requirement has test plan preparation. It has nothing to do with coding. Okay, so it has nothing to do with the coding. It's just with the requirement. So both these models, or any agile model or any other model, you will have requirement analysis done by both developers and testers. It can be parallel or it can be in tandem, right? Once requirement analysis is done, developers will do their tasks and testers will start with their testing activities. So well before that, this test plan preparation will happen. Okay. Okay. So can you elaborate on the gap that you mentioned earlier? Yeah. So this is what we discussed earlier, right? So if you see, in my requirement, I have only the basic information. I know I have username, file, blah blah. I have these columns, but nowhere it is mentioned that it should be a text column, or it should be a drop down box, or what is the minimum length, what is the maximum length. There's nothing mentioned like that. So that's the gap in your requirement. Hope you got the point now. Okay. So you will have to fill those gaps and get the clear understanding of the requirement. Unless and until you have a clear requirement, you cannot prepare your test scenarios also completely, right? So your test scenarios will be incomplete if you don't have a complete understanding about the requirement. So coming back, so I have my test plan created. I am now sure what is the effort that is required. So, and what is the duration by which the requirement has to be completed. Okay, I'm not going in depth of the test plan now. While doing the estimate process at the end of this training, we will discuss about the test plan again. Okay. So now coming back to test scenarios. How do you prepare an effective test scenario? Now that you understand the gap, right, and you got a clarification, let's take simple module and we'll try to prepare the test scenarios for this. As I said, first and foremost thing will be, you will have to know the navigation to the screen. So how do you navigate? You will be using a browser and an URL for it, right? Now from this you prepare your scenario. So what are the browsers that this application supports? Okay. Second, what is the URL? Whether it's a HTTP1, HTTP or HTTPS. Okay, right? And third, whether it supports multiple OS or or OS or mobile application. OS, okay, which means your browser, your application should be supported by multiple browsers, and it should generally be HTTPS. This is the general standard, and whether it's also accessible as part of mobile, or what is the minimum RAM that is required for it. So you need to know the configuration. Right, so these are the basic things that you will do while doing a web application. So if you know these, then you can write your scenario. See, now your scenario, one scenario it became, whether it's Chrome, it works fine. Then B, whether it works fine on Mozilla, so on and so forth. Now what is it happening? You are verifying whether you are able to see your application well and good on these multiple browsers, right? There's a question here from Asha. As a tester, are we not supposed to talk with the development team rather than the client directly? I thought testing would be done in comparison of client documentation with the developer's documentation. Isn't true. No, 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 no. See, we are not at all worried about what developers are doing. It is our interaction with the client or the client engagement or the business analyst who we are interacting. Only those documentation we are worried about. We are not worried about the developer's documentation. Okay. So going back. So now if you see, your requirement is being developed into the scenarios, right? So what application or what browsers your application is supporting. So what's the URL, so on and so forth, right? So you're evolving the action, you're evolving the from the basic requirement or a simple requirement that is mentioned, right? Second, now that you know that you have your test scenarios prepared, what are the inputs for it, right? So here your test data comes into picture. Now what is the test data for this? Say for the browser, what's your test data? It should be Chrome browser and URL is whatever is the URL. You will mention the URL, right? So for whatever is the action that you are doing, what is the input, that will become your test data. Okay. Now let's take for username column. Now for this, how will you do the how will you develop your requirements scenarios is, first you will see the spell check. Okay. Second is you will see what's the minimum length it is taking. Third will be your what's the maximum length, whether it's taking special characteristics or not, or allowed. Okay, so on and so forth. Now for this spell check, you don't have any, your test data will be user name, whether it's taking capital letters or not, whether it's by capital letters or whether is it like a combination of capital and small letters, and if it is a minimum length, whether it is taking 4 characteristics or less than 4 characteristics, right? So that's how you will have to prepare your test data by taking the scenarios. Okay, any questions so far? How to consider max length and minimum length? Okay, so for this is a question by Tanvi. So how do you consider the minimum length and maximum length? See, for any text box, as we defined, as we discussed earlier, you know that in the from the requirement that you will have to fill the basic information, and that includes username, all these columns, right? Which means you are entering some data here, right? So from data perspective, if you are doing a plain web application testing, you will have to make sure that whatever is the input, it's a given thumb rule that it will have at least minimum characteristics that should be entered. Okay, so from web application point, you will have to understand. Now if suppose you are doing a combination of web application and database testing, because any web application, its data has to be stored in a database, right? Now when you are storing the data in database, even the tables or columns in the database has to abide to minimum standards. Okay, so I cannot have blank values in few cases, in few columns, right? So you cannot have a blank username, right? It's an unwritten rule, right? We all know that username should not be blank. So it became a mandatory column, right? Now when I say mandatory column, I will not have a 2 or 3 characters username, because if you think on a broader perspective, if I have only a 2 or 3 characteristics, how many combination characteristics, how many combination of usernames I will be having? Maximum 9 combinations. After that, the combinations will be exhausted. So what is that I'll have to add? I'll add special characteristics. Now because of which I'll get some more combinations. Now if you see, if you are confining to 2 or 3 characteristics in the username, the number of combinations are limited. Instead, from the development perspective itself, client will say that client will say let's have at least 6 characteristics as minimum length. And now what is it happening? The combinations are more and there will be no exhausting of the username combinations, right? So that's how the minimum and maximum characteristics, or the minimum or maximum length will be defined. Okay, so that's the evolution part. So now when you ask these questions, you will prepare your test data. If I say minimum length validation, I'll give 4 characteristics as one input, less than 4 characteristics to see whether the error message is coming or not, more than 4 characteristics to make sure it's working fine, right? So this type of testing is called as boundary value. This type of test data preparation is called as boundary value analysis. Okay. So for any requirement, you will be able to find out what is the boundary for it, what's the limit for it. Okay. There's another question from Asha. All the test data would be defined by the client. Okay. So I'll tell you few scenarios where client will give the test data and few scenarios where you will have to prepare the test data. If you are working in a financial projects, okay, as a tester has to prepare the test data. Okay, the reason being, if you take the production or real-time data, there's obvious chance that it might be misused. So in that scenarios, in such kind of projects, you will not be given the test data. It would not be provided by the client. But there are cases, there are low risk projects where client provides a copy of production data. This is a real-time data, right? So whenever you are testing how a real-time or how does it happen in real time, you can replicate that in your testing environment. Okay, so it depends on the type of product where we are working on. So generally in financial projects or high-risk projects, you will not be given the test data by the client. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So this test data preparation will also come under test planning. Yes, this effort has to be provided in the test plan also. Okay. Okay. There's another question. Is there any limit on the test data preparation? Again, there's no limit on the test data preparation. The number of scenarios will define the amount of test data required. As I said earlier, right, the more the scenarios you prepare, the more the data you have to prepare. Again, as a tester, you have to keep in mind the effort time that we gave for testing this. So if the client wants to get it done in one day, you will have to make sure you cover all your test scenarios and the test data is enough to test it, right? Simple way of analyzing it is, as soon as you know the timings and the schedule, you will have to confine yourself. There's a concept called as risk-based testing in testing me. Now let's give a simple example of username itself. In username, I have a spell check. I'll do it with whether it's capital letters or small letters, and then I have minimum length, maximum length, and special characters. I'm confining to only these 4 scenarios. So for this, I have 1 plus 1, 2 test data for first check. I have for this 1 plus 1, 2, 4, 1, 1, 1, 3. So total there are 7, and for special characteristics, I'll verify for all the special characters. Right? So there are almost 25 special characteristics. So for each special characteristic combination, if I have to check, there are 25 inputs, right? So 25 plus 3 plus 2 plus 2 is how much? Almost 32 as my test data. Now if I have to verify for everything, at least I need 5 minutes of time. So 32 into 5 is how much? Almost 160 minutes, right? 160 minutes of time to test this, which means almost 2.5 hours is required. Now, if client says it has to be done in 1 hour, what will be what areas of these you will exclude? You will exclude the special characteristics. You will not check for all the 25 combinations, right? Need not verify all special characteristics. One is enough. One or few is enough, right? So what is it happening? From 25 you are reducing to 2 or 3, right? So that way your effort will be reduced. So what is that you are doing? You are doing a risk-based testing here, which means I am okay if I if I reduce few of the areas, or if I don't cover few of the test scenarios, right? My master scenario, whether special characters is allowed or not, will be verified if I do with only 1 or 2 special characters. I need not do with all 25 special. Okay, so that's called as risk-based testing. Okay, so now you have to keep in mind all these areas while you are doing your test scenarios preparation and test data preparation. Okay, so there's a continuation question by Asha. So the scenario you mentioned would be considered as an enhancement project as it has been in production. Yes, right. Okay, there's a question again. Can you explain boundary value analysis? Okay, so coming back, so let's take the next one. Okay, so I have special characteristics that are allowed. So I'll have to verify whether username takes special characteristics or not. Okay, so for me here, I can check with all special characters, or I can confine myself to one or more special characters. So I'll take only few of them, or I'll verify with all special characteristics, or I'll take only one. So what am I doing? I am giving a limit to what I'm testing. So I'm giving a boundary definition here. Okay. So the other example is for maximum length. I can test with 0 characteristics. I will test with 16 characteristics. I'll test with less than 16 characteristics, and I'll test with more than 16 characteristics. Right? So what am I doing? I am checking the boundary. The boundary that is defined for max length is 16. Okay, this is the boundary defined. Simple example, in cricket, if the ball fell short of the rope line, it is called as 4. If it falls above the rope line, it is called as 6, right? So what's the boundary that is set here? That rope, that length actually. So even in software also, you have the column definition given that it will take maximum 16 characteristics. So what's the boundary here? 16. So less than 16, more than 16, and without any values, right? So that's your boundary value analysis. Okay, hope it answered your question. So you can apply it anywhere of the application. Let's do a simple example again, one more example so that it will clear. So I have a rounding off issue where if it is more than 0.5, it should be rounded off to 1, okay, and less than 0.5, it should be rounded off to one number less, one number more. So what will I do here? I'll give 10.5. Let's say 10.5 as input. What should be the output? 11. If it is 10.4 as input, what should be the output? It should be 10. So what am I doing? I'm giving two different values. And if it is 10.6 as input, it should be 11. Right? So what am I doing? I'm taking less than 0.5, more than 0.5 and 0.5 and seeing whether what's the output. So that's my boundary value analysis. Okay. Alright. We'll be testing with 3 characters as well for the example. Yes. Okay. Do we have to make flow diagram for test plan? See, for test plan you will not create any flow diagram. It would be already defined by the business analyst. Okay. But for test scenario preparation, you will have to create flow diagram. This will help you in preparing effective test scenarios. The reason being, this whatever we are taking is a simple example, but let's take financial projects where you will have complex calculations and what do you say, complex complex design or complex calculations to come to a conclusion. Okay, simple example, let's take, if if a customer walks in for a loan, what are all the characteristics, what all will be considered is their credit history, and then it will have what do you say, the salary or the amount, the amount expected, the number of years, right? So if you see, the what do you say, the calculation is based on all these characteristics. So if any one of it is not met correctly, the loan might be rejected. So while doing the calculation, you will have to create a flow diagram. If credit history is good, first and foremost is good, then they will verify the salary. Okay, if it is bad, it would be rejected. Right? Now in the salary, they will see based on the, if the amount expected is above the salary limit, then it would be rejected, or if it is less, the amount will be dispersed. right? So what is it happening? You are creating your flow. There's a flow here based on some conditions or some values, right? So for writing your test scenarios, you will have to create your flow diagram here. Okay, for all right. So that will help you in preparing an effective test scenarios. All right, and in turn, it will also help you in preparing the test data. Okay. See, indirectly, you might not create for test plan, but that will help you in coming to the conclusion, the inputs that you are giving in the test plan, your effort estimation, the number of resources. Okay, so that will help you there. All right. Okay. All right. So this is about test scenarios and test data preparation. So as a task for today, right? Let's do it for any hot application. So okay. Uh, we will share you this requirement. So today you will prepare the scenarios for the rest of the columns. Okay. Try to analyze it, then prepare test scenarios and then come up with the test data for it. Okay. So how do you do it? Take an Excel sheet, column, what are the columns? These 8 columns. Okay. If you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So these 9 columns, come up with your scenarios and the test data for it. Okay, as a task you get it done and then we'll analyze it for next 5 minutes in the next class we do it. Okay, take each column and come up with the scenarios for it, and if you have any questions you can post it as clarification. Okay, and then what would be its test data. All right. We need to give negative data inputs also in the test data. Yes. So as we discussed earlier, we have happy path or positive scenarios, and we have negative scenarios also, right? Negative test cases also, or negative test scenarios. In negative scenario, if you give a wrong input, how does it react? Okay, or if you give minus records, how does it react? If you give zero values, how does it react? So these are all your negative scenarios, which means those will not be given in real time. No one will give a blank space in username. As it is mandatory, you will obviously enter. So if you are giving a blank, how does the system react? So that will become your negative scenario. Okay. Right. So that will come into your test data as well. So prepare in this way and let's discuss it tomorrow in the next session. Okay. All right. Now, again, this particular test scenario preparation and test data preparation is more of web application. We discussed it more on web application. When we do a database or data warehouse testing concepts, right? There, I'll let you know how to do the requirement analysis. How do you do the test scenario preparation and test data preparation? All right. So from one application to the other application, the way your approach or the way you prepare your test requirement analysis, or how do you break the requirements and how do you prepare your test scenarios differ. Okay. Uh, could you provide videos of 20th and 29th? I think the Google Drive is shared with all the attendees. Okay. If not, please let me know. I'll ask the team to get back to you. Lakshmi is asking how many maximum inputs can we give? As I said earlier, right, it's a combination of one or more points. Like you have ample time to test it, okay, you can give more combinations. We did it for the special characteristics, right? So you can test for all the special characteristics, or if you don't have time, you will have to confine to one or more, because any of the special characteristic is a special character, right? Only thing is, if you want to cross verify everything, whether it is taking all the special characteristics or not, if you have enough time, you can test for everything. Okay, so that all depends on your timelines, the amount of effort that you are ready to put in as a tester. Okay, all right. So I see many people asking for the videos again. I'll ask the team to again to send back an email to all of you. Okay. All right. So this is it for today. I don't see any other questions. Okay, there's a question here from Asha. All the requirement gathering is the first stage of any project. Yes, that defines the course of action for the entire testing. Okay, unless and until we are not sure about the requirement, there's no point in testing the application at all. What if anything comes up later? So that's the problem, right? So if you are if you are if it's a process oriented what do you say company, all the requirements will be fixed. If you are doing an ad hoc or random requirement development, okay, then it's very problematic, in the sense you will have to change your course of actions, you will have to recreate your scenarios, right? So generally any matured model or matured company will have the requirements freezed, and then only the other testing activities will happen. Okay, for Selenium, is it the same link? Karthik, is the same link, right? It's the same link.
Yes, Mahesh,
So
it's the
as a
same
class
link.
selector, what
But
is
the
the
thing
format of?
is, I'll have to end this session and restart. So we
Okay.
can close this webinar, then I
Yeah.
can restart.
Yeah. So if any questions are there, right, please park them for tomorrow. We'll continue the session. All right. So I'll have to end the session. Thank you. Bye
All
all.
right. Thank you. Thank you all.